Hey there, and welcome to the last video of this year. I hope you had a wonderful time over the holidays, and before we get into the questions, let's quickly announce the winner of the R75, which was raffled out between everyone who submitted a comment to the community post. And the winner is... Congratulations! Please contact me for the shipping details, and thanks to everyone else for participating. Now, let's get into those questions. There are bookmarks down in the description below, so feel free to jump around to the ones you're interested in. I grouped them into categories, so hopefully that makes it a bit easier to digest them. Anyhow, let's begin. Are you still satisfied with the results of the Meshlicious and the temps performance? Yes, totally. This is easily the best build I ever did. I still have no problems or had no issues so far. No leakage, no temperature problems, nothing. I know there have been comments on the Meshlicious or Waterlicious video saying that this is an impossible setup. It's not the easiest one for sure, and it might not run at its full capacity due to the undervolting, but for me it's plenty to edit these videos without any hiccups and play all the games that I want. Is that a wireless phone charger on your desk, and does the Fox have a name? Yes, a lot of you have been asking about this. It's the wireless block charger from Native Union. Unfortunately, I don't think they're making this anymore. A couple of weeks back you could still get it, but it has now disappeared completely from their site. It was a collaboration between Native and Tom Dixon, which is a high-end accessory, lighting and furniture company. It's basically a solid block of aluminum with a part machined out for the charger, which you can take out and maybe even replace with a different one if it fits. The Fox is a vinyl figure from French-Japanese record label called Maison Kitsune. They also have a fashion line as well as their own coffee shops and beans, among other things. The figure itself is designed by Superfiction, which is a creative studio responsible for a lot of things I wouldn't mind placing around in my own office. Oh, and it's magnetic too and has these funny faces inside. You can rearrange it to create a new kind of Super Fox, for example. But they also don't make this anymore, and it's kind of a pity, so, but they have other cool Fox related things. A bit pricey though. Regarding the name, it doesn't have one, but, why don't we give it one? Post your suggestions in the comments and the one with the most likes wins. What do you think of a wireless keyboard with an iPad setup? Depending on the use case, it can be the perfect match. I daily drove an iPad Pro in my last job for a while. I had a lot of thoughts on it, and iPadOS has gotten a lot more desktop-y since then with the file support and all. I think it's definitely usable, and I would, for an entirely portable solution, consider it over a laptop. The reason why I haven't jumped for it yet is the fact that it ends up being two pieces. Even if they are magnetically attached to each other, the thickness is often more than that of a traditional laptop when combined. That kinda defeats the purpose of the whole portability aspect, if you ask me. But I think it works. I've seen plenty of people using this as their daily driver. You just have to remember that this is a mobile or tablet operating system. As long as you understand the confinements of this, you're gonna be fine. That's the problem I had when I was using the iPad. At first I bought into Apple's marketing and tried to look and use it as a laptop replacement and got really frustrated. But that's the thing, it's not a laptop, it's a tablet. And the moment you start thinking of it that way, you're gonna be fine, because they are very capable, but they are different. How has the custom keyboard life been? Really great, I will never go back, that's for sure. I think it's one of the most underestimated things I've ever started, but I knew from day one that I would be sucked into this. I'm very receptive to high-end, niche, customizable things, and I was actually holding off on buying anything because I was just too worried about how much money I would sink into this. But there's a weird thing about cost and value that I might talk about in a later video that I think justifies it, but not for everyone, and really depends on how you enjoy and consume things in your life. Where did you learn, edit, frame, light and film in such an aesthetically pleasing manner? Well, first of all, thank you. This question is a bit hard to answer. I would say it's a combination of a lot of things, but I never trained professionally, nor did I do a course or anything else. I would say it mostly comes down to practice, and I have a huge passion for movies in general and watched a lot of behind the scenes videos, so I'm sure that one or more things must have rubbed off on me over the years. I would also say that since my first video of this year, I already learned a lot about what works and what doesn't and how to get what I want faster. It's a process that takes a lot of time, and I think everyone goes through it differently. Something that might be of interest is that a lot of shots I take actually don't end up in the video at all, because once I see them in the edit, I realize that they don't work. Watching a lot of other content creators helps too, even brands. I know I mention Norama Works a lot in my videos, but that's because even without owning one of their boards, I absolutely love their design language and presentation. So I'd say having watched so many other videos has given me a lot of help and inspiration for what I could do and still want to do. How did you end up shooting with the Sigma FP? Very unpopular choice, even though it gets the job done. Yeah, the camera. Well, I believe when it came out it was the smallest full frame you could get, maybe even still is. The marketing was also very video focused, and Sigma had a very good reputation, so after consulting with a friend of mine who's way more versed in camera gear, I decided to go for it, with the primary reason being that I wanted to make more videos. At the time I was shooting a lot of shorts, and by a lot and short I mean 2 or 3 videos per year that were about a minute long, but with humans in it that talk instead of keyboards that talk.
Ew, but I like it.
Before that, we always shot on my iPhone X, which is what this is shot on, by the way, as I only have one camera. I think the timing of the FP was a bit unfortunate, as a lot of very video-focused cameras at multiple price points started to pop up just shortly after its release, and if you look at the availability and capability of what you can get today, it's outclassed in a lot of areas. For example, I really wish I could shoot 4K 60 FPS. Currently, I do everything at 4K 30, because that's the limit of the camera, but exported as a 24 FPS file. That way I have some flexibility and can reduce the shots to about 80% of the recorded speed before it starts to get choppy. If I could shoot at 4K 60, I would be able to export it at 30 FPS, which would then give me more flexibility in post, while making the overall video look smoother. That being said, I love the camera for its weirdness and the picture quality it gets. It's a bit unnecessary for YouTube, and the lack of any usable autofocus makes it incredibly annoying sometimes. I always set the focus distance manually and then try to remain within its boundaries, with varying degrees of success of course. How far do you feel the gaming experience is between consoles and PC? I think in the past, that is during the age of the original Counter-Strike and Sonic Adventures, which were 2 of my favorite pastime activities, the line was much more prominent. These days almost everything is multi-platform and games have become less bound to a particular system. Basically everything is more accessible. I think there is really not that much of a difference. There is of course the technical aspect, but excluding that, you have a store, and to be honest, whether it's Steam, PlayStation or Epic, doesn't really make much of a difference. From a pure consumer consumption perspective, it's all the same. It's just a fight over exclusivities and maybe where your friends are or what your particular opinions are on a company. I do have games though that I would always prefer to play on a console, like Uncharted or The Last of Us, even though they might look better on high-end PCs, especially now that they are being ported, which still baffles my mind by the way. The same goes for PC of course. I'll always prefer to play an RTS or a shooter with a mouse and keyboard, but then again you can plug those into an Xbox anyway, so that begs the question, what's the real difference? Actually, this would make a very interesting video by itself. I hope I answered your question though. Do you work in the content creation industry as a designer, cinematographer or cutter or something like that? I wish, but I work in IT and have so all my life. I used to be a web developer, although I wouldn't really classify what I did as functioning software. Nowadays, I'm a project manager and work with teams to, well, continuously develop and improve the software we provide. But these are not the first nor the only videos I make. I started doing shorts with my friends around 5 years ago, but nothing to write home about. We were just fooling around after watching one too many Casey Neistat videos. I sometimes do short compilations from travels or have so before, you know, the situation hit and prevented everybody from stepping outside. Although those are just a bunch of static scenes with some music playing in the background. To summarize, not professionally, but I have done videos before. This direction here on YouTube with the tight scripts and the focus on products is something very new to me though. Have you got any other interesting hobbies outside of computer keyboard builds and the likes? Well, depends on what you would constitute as interesting. I do play guitar, supposedly electric. I say supposedly because I haven't actively been playing for years to be honest. I also have a synthesizer which I got about 2 years ago and it's awesome, just look at all these knobs. But then again, I haven't been playing a lot recently. Sometimes I just noodle around on it because it makes me feel good. I also enjoy writing, at least I did. I once tried to write 3 short stories and stopped after the first one about a third of the way in. I still have them in my head, but I never got around to finishing them. Still would love to do so, but you know, procrastination is a real thing. I also tried to write a book once, stopped after about 38 pages I think. Again, I'd love to finish this someday, but for now it's sitting on a shelf in my brain. I hope I won't forget the twist ending though. It's a doozy. Oh, and last year in the lockdown I started cycling a lot. I bought myself a really nice gravel bike, a GT Grade. Love it. And like with all things I get, I started fiddling around with it and have pretty much replaced all of the parts by now except for the frame and the derailleur. That's the gear changing thing in the back if you've never heard that word before. I didn't before I started cycling. I also really love watching movies, which is one, if not the thing I love doing most. On this channel I originally also wanted to make videos about movies, but quickly decided that it didn't fit with the rest. My favorite of this year was probably Dune, but that's on everyone's list. What caught me off guard was Cherry, which came out in February but got quickly forgotten. The trailer was interesting to say the least. It's one of the few these days that didn't spoil everything. Actually, that's what made me want to watch it in the first place, as it really didn't tell you anything about the plot. It's not perfect by any means. There are some structural issues, pacing in the second half if I remember correctly, and some stuff doesn't add up. And I would say that they really push the limits on what is believable at the end, but I don't want to say more in case somebody hasn't seen it yet. It's definitely worth a watch, but it's not a fun or easy watch. It has some gnarly scenes and topics in it. Are there any YouTubers that inspired you or that you would recommend? There are too many to count, to be honest. I watch a lot of YouTube. It's probably what I watch the most, more so than Netflix, Disney Plus and everything else. I have my favorites listed on the channel page, but the list is kind of focused on tech channels. There are many other ones like Burn Peak, which is about mountain biking, which I love, even though I don't mountain bike at all. Or Matthew Encina, who does a lot of DIY office setups, really like his stuff. Super clean, he builds a lot of his stuff by himself and I love how he narrates, composes everything, and yeah, it's just generally a very cool channel. There are many more like Sean Angus Watson who plays guitar and well, makes some really nice tunes. Same goes for Aldo, I mean just look at his cable game. Then there's maybe Grainy Days. I'm way too lazy to ever get into film photography, but there's something about how this guy shoots and edits his videos, along with commentary that is among the funniest I've heard. Lastly, there is, of course, Optimum Tech, which I know from the analytics that a lot of you watch too. That channel is just supremely good. He does proper reviews of PC hardware, and just seeing his Optimum Plays channel also shows he's a much better gamer. Why did you choose to create a YouTube channel? I always wanted to have a YouTube channel. This sounds a bit weird, but I kind of have a romanticized view on YouTubers and creators alike. I know it's a lot of hard work, now even more so, but I love making things, and when I was little I actually wanted to become a game journalist at one point. I loved reading all the magazines, I just wanted to talk about video games all day long and be part of that world. For years I was dabbling with the thought of making a channel, but never knew what it should be about. Ironically, I always said it can be anything, just not tech. The reason is that I thought, and I still think, there are too many of them out there, and I don't think or don't know what I could add to this space that hasn't already been added. But as you can see, it ended up being one anyway, because this is the one topic I like to talk most about apart from movies, and it's the only way that I could continue making these videos. If I didn't like talking about it, I would procrastinate and eventually stop. Which time zone are you in because of these upload times? I live in Switzerland, close to Zurich, but I'll leave the detail grade to that. The uploads are all scheduled, by the way. I could change it, it even tells me to do so on TubeBuddy, so maybe I should do that. What plans do you have for your content? I have a bit of a backlog for 2022 and there will be more keyboard related videos for sure. I got a few very interesting things lying around too, like this Work Louder board, which is definitely interesting but also a bit terrible. But I wouldn't mind doing one or two more game related videos again. I know they are not the most popular ones, but I really like making them. There's definitely some ITX stuff I want to do as well, like the Case Teenage Engineering release this year, which brings me a bit into the focus, or at least the current focus of the channel. A good friend of mine, let's call him Mr. A, said it perfectly when I discussed it with him the other day. He said, "You make videos about nice things." And I couldn't have said it better than that. I love products that are weird and uncommon. That's what really excites me about tech. And there are some really strange things like this Playdate handheld, which is so cool, and I can't wait for mine to arrive. Or there's Steam Deck, which definitely won't be uncommon, but it's also weird and wonderful. But it doesn't always have to be about gaming. I might even look at some musical gadgets. I always wanted to get one of the pocket operators from Teenage Engineering, but I never could find an excuse to get one. But that's also where you come into play. If you're interested or think I should check out something, I'm very open to that. If it's weird and wonderful, please let me know, because then I want it. Did you have any fears or concerns about putting yourself out there when creating YouTube content? Definitely. I mean, I still am very anxious of everything I put out there. I was also very apprehensive after the success of the Meshlicious video, that I wasn't going to make any more ITX content for this year and that people would all unsubscribe because they wanted more PC building content, which now I am worried about again because of all the keyboard content. Then there's the negative comment or dislike reception. I function pretty much like all other creators I've seen interviews of. You can have oh so many positive things that one negative shot will haunt you for the rest of the day. I still read every comment though. I think it's not at a volume yet that makes it impossible for me to do so, but I don't respond to every single one anymore. Sometimes I also just don't know the answer to a question. But I would say that since I'm not actively on camera, I do have kind of a layer of protection. In the end, if you want to do something like this, you just have to live with it and just do it. There's no way around it. I don't like every video I watch either, and I don't hate the creators for it. Sometimes someone says something I completely disagree with, but that doesn't mean I hate them. And that's the thought I try to apply when I read negative comments. They disagree, maybe even with how I sound or where I'm from, but that's just a momentary burst of emotions caused by whatever. Things you've learned so far making content. Okay, that's a big question and an answer that could take up a whole video by itself. There are two parts to this: the technical aspect of what I learned in how to shoot, edit and produce a video, and the content or how the story is being told, including title, thumbnail, content structure and so on. I'll focus on the biggest learning from each. If you're interested in this topic, let me know in the comments. Maybe I'll do a video just about this if there's enough interest. Okay, so for the technical aspect, the most difficult new thing I had to learn is how to talk and record my voice. The first video took me an entire week just for the voiceover, and by the end of it, I had almost entirely lost the ability to speak, because I wore out my vocal cords to such an extent that they just broke. I took a break for a couple of days and then finally finished it. If you want to start a channel, don't underestimate this. It still is a very time-consuming and difficult portion for me. For example, I would say recording voiceover for a 15-minute video takes roughly around 4 to 5 hours at the moment. The biggest learning I had regarding the content itself is to stay true to oneself. There is a heavy attraction towards making your videos more like what's already out there, because that seems to work. What I mean is, there's a definitive pattern that you can observe when watching popular tech videos, or any videos really. And if one of my videos doesn't do well, I instantly think maybe I should stop with those chapters. Maybe people are more interested in the specs rather than me rambling on about why I didn't like how the screws were held in. But then I read the comments of people appreciating exactly that aspect and saying this is why they liked it and why this is refreshing and different. Which then makes me remember that I want to make videos that feel true to what I want to say. That doesn't mean everything will always stay the same. Maybe the chapters will go away at some point and be replaced by something else. But I want that process to come naturally when I discover it. I don't want to be steered by the algorithm or to be put into a pattern just for the sake of it. I really hope I'm not completely wrong about this. I don't financially depend on YouTube yet, so I have the luxury of trying out things, which is exactly what I plan to do. I have a few ideas to incorporate maybe more than just tech in maybe a fun way, and let's see if I, and most importantly, you will like it. And that's a wrap. Thank you again for all the really great questions. I really hope I answered them all to your satisfaction. If not, let's follow up in the comment section below. Anyway, thank you again for all the kind words, the support and just everything. I know it's a cliche to say that I never expected this type of resonance, but well, it's the truth, so here's to you. To everyone who watched the video, liked, subbed, commented and decided to join in on the fun. Thank you again so much for a great start in 2021. I wish you all a fantastic New Year's Eve and see you again in 2022. Bye.